Out of AK Films, Eric got directly into a special car to MGM, and now his identity is different. Many times driving by himself is purely a waste of time. To find a parking space, to park, and for people in high positions, wasting time is a waste of money. Besides, finding a driver can also create a job, and the salary is not low, which is equivalent to feeding a family and benefiting the society, so why not? Because he had just driven away the old man of the previous dynasty and directly killed most of the projects. Now there is no one in the company who does not know the new boss, and they all greeted him cautiously when they saw him, for fear of making the other party angry and losing their jobs. Walking into the office, the inside had been meticulously cleaned up. Eric pressed the electric bell, and after a few seconds, he remembered the knock on the door outside. A young man in his 20s walked in. His name was Xing, and he was the secretary Eric had found for himself, Chinese. Why not find a female secretary with a sweet bel canto voice? Eric wants someone who can work, not someone who can do it. Female secretaries can have male secretaries to work overtime. Secretaries often have to be on call, and the work pressure is very high, and ordinary people can't bear it. And Chinese has always been synonymous with seriousness. Coupled with Eric himself, he naturally chose him. If he has the potential and is willing to work hard, he may not be able to be promoted in the future, such as when developing the Chinese market. Boss, let Billy G's come and see me. Okay. After a while, Xing knocked on the door again, luring Billy and the others in. How's that going? A woman with glasses immediately handed over an investigation report, and Eric had a little impression of her, and he had seen her at the meeting, as if she were a middle-level cadre in the marketing department. Billy said, "In the past 3 days, we have visited almost all the physical stores in Los Angeles, and we have also consulted professional comic book companies and publishers, and found a total of 27 zombie-related works, including comics and novels. However, these works are not well known, and there are even authors who publish them at their own expense, and I have bought them back. Are you interested in taking a look?" Eric looked at the research report carefully and found that there was no comic book version of The Walking Dead, and he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It seems that the original book has not been released yet, which is good news for himself. Divide those 27 works into categories and send them to me when they involve survival in the last days and the struggle of human nature. Soon, several novels were sent in, but the comics were not. According to your requirements, only these 5 books are met, but these 5 books only involve some human struggles, and the main line is still a cool article about killing zombies. Eric opened a novel called The Last Days Are King, and as soon as he saw the name, he knew that it had an inner flavor. It's 2002, and zombie works don't have much depth, let alone discuss human nature. Well done. Let's keep an eye on George Martin and get the copyright to his novels as soon as possible, especially A Song of Ice and Fire. No matter what you do, this one must be one. After receiving the compliment, several people suddenly smiled, and MGM has been nervous recently, and now he is finally relieved. In the morning, Eric roughly went through 5 novels, and after making sure that there would be no copyright disputes, he was completely relieved. After lunch, I directly called the manager of the production department to the office. Although this middle-aged man is also a talent recruited by his father, but the other party knows very well who is the big and small king. He is a senior worker, and the young man opposite has the power of life and death in his hands. Julio, look at this script outline. I'm ready to develop this project. The first part of The Walking Dead has a sequel booked before filming has started. Julio frowned slightly. Seeing that Eric didn't speak, he could only continue reading. An outline was not long, just a clear explanation of the background, characters, and plotline. After reading it, Julio pursed the corners of his lips and organized his language. In terms of creativity alone, I think it is still very good, and the market prospect should be okay, but there are also a few problems. Say, How many episodes are you going to shoot in the first season? Although the outline only writes the story, I have a hunch that the cost of filming this kind of TV series will be very high. Makeup, props, group performances, venues, many scenes we can't even shoot in the studio, and if you go to the real scene, it will involve troublesome things such as locking down the block, which will burn a lot of money. While the prospects for this show are good, I am concerned that the profit margin may not be high considering the production costs. Julio is a very experienced producer, but the more experienced he is, the more he thinks about it, and the cost of shooting is the most important thing for producers. Judging from his experience, this kind of drama is undoubtedly a big production. Otherwise, the sense of desolation in the apocalypse cannot be created, and I am afraid that the cost of each episode will not be less than $1.5 million. Therefore, what he said in his heart was that the profit margin was small, and he was worried about blood loss, but because of his identity, he couldn't say it too bluntly. And Julio's worries, Eric naturally expected it, and he had learned before the time trip that the average production cost of a single episode of The Walking Dead was $2.75 million. Even in that era, it was a very expensive drama. If it was 2002, after deducting inflation, it would still be terrible and scary, and it is estimated that it will shock the jaws of many peers. But its returns are just as impressive, earning an average of $11 million per episode, making more money than many movies. I don't have to think about the cost. I plan to shoot 12 episodes in the first season, and I expect to invest $40 million, and I want to create a masterpiece that can win awards. The original, The Walking Dead, there are only 6 episodes in the first season. That is because of the high cost, the uncertainty of the future, and no matter how rich investors are, they dare not spend too much money at once, and a season of 6 episodes is also the regular number of episodes of many high-investment American dramas. But on the premise of knowing that it will be a big hit, it is inevitable to do 6 more episodes, and Eric plans to directly integrate the content of the first and second seasons of the original version. However, he will greatly delete the emotional line of the second season, and those protracted emotional entanglements are really unnecessary, especially the love triangle between Rick, Luoli, and Sean. The audience will only feel disgusting and unhappy. He wanted to Luoli when he was chasing the show. The Walking Dead, one of the main reasons why the more you shoot is that it is a test of human nature. The audience doesn't like the struggle of human nature, but many times they don't even care about logic, and they are all mentally retarded at a glance, so the effect will only backfire. Therefore, the struggles and tests of human nature need to be there, but they must be profound enough to be placed on the key links and play the role of the finishing touch. At the same time, it is necessary to increase the proportion of scenes fighting zombies, constantly stimulate the adrenaline of the audience, and make The Walking Dead a work with coolness and depth, which is Eric's purpose. The budget for 12 episodes is $40 million, with an average of at least $3.33 million per episode, deducting inflation, which is at least $1 million higher than each episode of the original version. Across the desk, Julio's heart skipped and he opened his mouth to persuade him, but when he saw Eric's high-spirited and ambitious appearance, he held back the words that came to his lips. I'm just a wage earner, so why upset the boss? Not to mention that it may not be a good thing to let this hairy boy make a mistake. With this in mind, Julio nodded, understood. I will arrange the best producer to be in charge of this project. Do you have any requirements for screenwriters and directors? It's better to have Frank Drabant or Neil Marshall as the director, and of course, if you can bring in John Carpenter, I'll applaud you, and you'll find the screenwriter, but I'll check the script. The 3 directors that Eric said, John Carpenter needs no introduction. I believe that no one does not know his name. Frank Darabont was the director of the first season of the original The Walking Dead, and also directed the masterpieces The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Miracle, and his style of directing Eric liked. Zombies are more aggressive, oppressive, and tense. As for Neil Marshall, many people may not have heard of him. His works include Invasion of Darkness, The Shining, Invasion of Doom, etc., and Game of Thrones, Westworld, Black Sails, Hannibal, and other American dramas are all from him, and he is very capable. Suddenly, the phone rings, Eric waves his hand, and Julio leaves the office in amusement. Eric, this little beauty is a bit difficult to handle. I suggest you better come to Israel in person. I just received a notice that there will be a meeting in the evening, and it seems that it is not possible to touch the fish. MGM Tower, Eric's office.
Gal Gadot?
Who else could it be? I found her contact information on the day you gave the assignment and flew to Israel the day before yesterday and met with her through her agent. But this chick is a bit difficult, to be precise. Her family is not good. Now she is only 17 years old, underage. Many things can't be decided by themselves. I don't want to bear the responsibility of abducting underage girls. Eric couldn't help laughing. You're a master of pickling girls among us. Can't you get a little girl? Yes, I may have promised, the second female lead of a movie, no matter how many people ask for the opportunity, but she doesn't take the bait, and her father is very stubborn and doesn't eat this set at all. Wait, I'm going to find out one thing. Is the resistance coming from Gal Gadot, or is it from Gal Gadot's parents? Judy paused for a moment. It's more from her parents. They even doubt my identity, and they have to see the big boss to believe it. Eric sneered. Sending someone over was already to save face. How could he have the time to do such a trivial matter? After thinking for a moment, Eric said, "What is Gal Gadot's family background, and has he done any research?" The time is too short. Just a brief understanding. The ancestors are European Jews. They became refugees during World War II, and they fled to Israel from her grandfather's generation, and the family conditions are okay, but they are not a rich and noble family. Well, are her grandparents still alive? Grandpa is still here, not young. I visited her house. Got it, try again. The opportunity is in front of her. It's her own loss to give up, and tell them that if you come here, I can get her exempted from military service. Then do your best. What if she's still skeptical? Returning home, MGM has no shortage of people, especially actors. In the evening, the cheap old brother Joshua Cooper suddenly ran back, and the meeting was a bear hug. Eric's physical fitness is already quite good, but it is still a little worse than that of a professional rugby player, and he feels that the flesh in his whole body is shaking violently. Are you trying to knock me into a concussion? Ha 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 ha, there are no weak people in the Cooper family, you stinky boy. Even bought MGM quietly. If it wasn't for my mother telling me, I would still be in the dark. Just for this, you want to kill me and inherit my company. Of course, can you? The two brothers laughed, and their mother beckoned everyone to dinner. Eric, how much did you pay for Michael Plums? Asked Joshua curiously. Eric held out 3 fingers as he ate. $300 million? Hee hee, can you have a little imagination? Do you think $300 million can buy an established film and television company? Joshua's lips trembled. No, it won't be $3 billion. About the same price. Oh my God. Joshua's eyes widened in surprise, and then he began to growl. Why buy that damn MGM? Why not buy the 49ers? Acquired the 49ers, I'm the boss's brother. Play wherever I want. Let whoever I want to get out. That guy Garrick, I've long looked at him unpleasantly. Eric nodded earnestly. Buying a team is indeed a good idea, and after entering a new era, whether it is football or basketball, I have a hunch that it will usher in an explosive period. But the company is just getting on track now, at least until I make money, and then I'll give you a team manager to sit in the future. Joshua's expression suddenly became obscene, and he smiled. The team manager is not important. Discuss something. What's the matter? Now that MGM belongs to Cooper's family, how about I work part-time as a talent scout? Looking at his lewd look, Eric suddenly sounded an alarm bell in his mind. Joshua, you don't want to use this as an excuse to pick up girls, do you? Joshua hurriedly denied it, squinting at his mother, who happened to be glaring at him as well. Joshua, I warn you not to mess around. I can't control what you do outside, but don't affect Eric's career, or I'll smash your ass, and in front of your coach and teammates. You know I'm going to do it. The corners of Joshua's mouth twitched. I'm joking, Mom, and I've never fucked around outside, and I'm still single. But our cheerleading team is pretty good. There are a few girls in it who are very hot. Maybe there are suitable roles for them to interview, of course. I have absolutely no deal with them. I just want to contribute to the company. It's just that no one believes his words, and Eric doesn't have a good impression of cheerleaders. Johnson, the magic of the Lakers back then, contracted AIDS because his private life was too chaotic. And after the news broke, the entire Lakers team, including the players, staff, and cheerleaders, went to check, and the focus of this was the cheerleaders. It is important to know that normal interpersonal interactions, including kissing, do not transmit HIV, and the main routes of transmission are mother to child, blood, and sex. And one person's infection actually caused the whole team to be highly nervous. They are definitely not a mother-son relationship, and it is impossible for each other to transfuse blood. Then the only way to spread is sex, which shows the chaos of the team, and the cheerleading team is simply the team's public toilet. Joshua, forget about the cheerleading team. Be careful. Don't get AIDS. The father glared at him fiercely and issued a warning. Joshua, you have to restrain your behavior. I don't want to suddenly have a woman holding a child to come to the door one day, and what I don't want to see is that more than one woman comes to the door with a. If that happens, I'll be rude to you. Joshua shrunk his neck and muttered, I knew I shouldn't come back. I just made a suggestion. Do you need 3 people to target me together? Eric smiled. Well, if there are really good athletes, you can introduce them. Joshua pouted. It's better than nothing. New York, JFK International Airport. A Lincoln is on its way to Rhode Island. Bell. The phone rings, and Warren's voice comes out. Eric, they said you went to New York. Well, I've arrived and am on my way to Rhode Island, ready to make contact with Hasbro. Yes, you're sure you'll be able to get them and take the rights to the Transformers. I hope to get it right the first time, but it's not that simple. You'll always have a way, but since you're not in Los Angeles, I'll call and report to work. On the side of AK Film and Television, Bhima Hadi has already recruited an assistant manager, and he will join the company in the next few days. The script for Sharknado is in preparation and is expected to be completed in a week, and this kind of a logical bad movie is really not challenging. The screenwriter even made a request. He just wanted to make some extra money, but he didn't want to be embarrassed. So don't show his name in the film. He didn't want to be nailed to the pillar of shame. The actor's words have been finalized except for the actor, and Eric doesn't know any of them. All of them are small and transparent, and the total salary does not exceed $100,000. There are many such actors, whether in Hollywood or China, who have entered the entertainment industry to pursue their dreams, hoping to become a big star. After a few years or more than 10 years, he may have acted in a few plays, but most of the time he was playing tricks, never became popular, and finally left the scene. The result is that youth is lost, time is wasted, and other livelihood skills are not available, and it is a mess. Fortunately, as long as the woman is beautiful, she can generally find a pickup man, and she may not be rich or wealthy. The actor is miserable, and in the end he can only go to the wrong door or work as a cashier, insurance salesman, etc., and the peers around him are all hot Kongheads, and he has to work hard to deliver takeaways. When people around him asked what they used to do, they could only smile bitterly, and then advised young people not to enter the entertainment industry. It was a black hole. If there is no candidate for the leading actor, I recommend someone. His name is Ryan Reynolds. He debuted as a child star and has been in the industry for many years. But he has never become popular, and his current situation should not be very good. You can contact him. Tell him that although Sharknado is a bad movie, it is very distinctive, and it can definitely help him make a name. And this is my project. If he performs well enough, MGM's new film will give priority to him, and the salary can be a little more. On the other end of the phone, Warren wrote down his name on a piece of paper. Ryan Reynolds, I remember him. The person you recommend will definitely not have a problem. I will contact the Screen Actors Guild. Speaking of the male lead, Eric's head suddenly popped up with the name of the little and immediately gave Warren an idea. Ryan Reynolds and Sharknado are quite compatible when you think about it. And the little cheap is not famous yet, although he entered the industry very early, but he was unlucky and he didn't come out for more than 10 years. Eric remembers that Ryan Reynolds had a movie released some time ago, which seemed to be Lionsgate, called The King of Repetition. This kind of campus youth film is not as powerful as American Pie, and the box office is naturally not high. After the release of the movie, Ryan Reynolds' fame increased, but not much, and it can only be said that he began to emerge among teenagers. I believe that the money is in place, and then give a certain promise. It is not a problem to take him. In addition, if you are a director, I also recommend one person, Kieran Avery Waynes, the director of Screaming, a member of the Waynes family. He is good at this style of film. You can try to invite. If it doesn't work, forget it. You can grasp it yourself. Okay, I made a note of it. Boss, we're here. At this time, the car slowly stopped in front of a building, and the co-pilot Chin Shing hurriedly jumped out of the car and opened the door, and was confronted by Volvo and a middle-aged man with glasses. Boss, at this time Mr. Sergei Hassenfeld, the CEO of Hasbro. Volvo hurriedly introduced. This time there was a request, and Eric walked up quickly, his hands clasped together. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Hassenfeld. Me too, Mr. Cooper. You've been Hollywood's hottest star lately, with a $2.8 billion slump, and I've wanted to get to know you for a long time. Two looked at each other and smiled, exchanged a few words of greeting, and then entered the building. I have to say that Volvo's efficiency is really high, and in just a dozen days, he got in touch with Hasbro's senior management. Sergei Hassenfeld, the current CEO of Hasbro, is second only to CEO in the group. And the CEO's name is Alan Hassenfeld, and the two are uncles and nephews. According to Volvo, in fact, Hasbro has long wanted to develop the gold mine of Transformers, especially seeing the success of Spider-Man. The bouncing boy next door has brought Sony more than $300 million in direct income, and the indirect income is a sky-high price. With such a terrifying ability to attract money, let alone Hasbro, any company will be red-eyed, which is why things will go so smoothly. There was no visit and research. The two sides went directly into the conference room, and after talking about some details, everyone made concessions to each other and finally talked about the issues they were most concerned about. Mr. Hasenfield, I hope you understand that we have great sincerity in our cooperation, and we believe that Transformers has extraordinary market potential, and as long as it is released, it will definitely trigger a global movie-watching frenzy. I also believe that Transformers have a wide audience and influence on a global scale, influencing countless people's childhoods, but we still have some concerns about making live-action films. Please. First of all, the question of shooting. With today's digital technology, can it support the shooting requirements of Transformers? Mr. Hasenfield, that's what we're focusing on. It's going to be a special effects blockbuster, and MGM's investment in special effects, I can promise you, no less than $100 million can be written into the contract. Hearing the $100 million figure, Hassenfeld's eyes lit up. He inquired that the production cost of Spider-Man is about $130 million, deducting various expenses such as directors, actors, props, and post-production, and the cost of special effects is actually about $70 million US. And if MGM's investment can really reach $100 million, the effect will definitely explode. Nodding with some satisfaction, Hasenfield threw out the second key question. Another issue is the copyright fee. I think you also know that the animation ratings of Transformers last year were very good, so we hope to increase the licensing fee by 20%. Hearing this, Eric frowned. Hasbro was a little greedy, and he opened his mouth to 20%. He really thought that the money was blowing in the wind. But he felt helpless about this. After all, the copyright is in the hands of others, and if you don't cooperate with yourself, you can also cooperate with other 6 major companies. If you don't cooperate with the other big 6, you can also cooperate with powerful independent production companies, and this kind of big IP does not worry about buyers. In particular, the success of the X-Men series and Spider-Man has made more companies realize the potential of comic works. As for Hasbro's lion opening its mouth, MGM also expected it and came up with a series of plans. In business, you can't run anywhere to ask for a sky-high price and pay back the money on the ground. Mr. Hazenfield, I have a question. Why did Hasbro shoot Transformers? Hazenfield didn't answer, just looked at Eric, wanting to hear what he had to say. In my opinion, it's nothing more than expanding its influence or injecting fresh blood into Transformers, and the fundamental purpose is to sell merchandise and toys. After all, that's your core business, isn't it? That's right, Mr. Cooper. What exactly are you trying to say? Eric took a deep breath. Then I have a proposal. How about we sign a VM agreement? Hazenfield was stunned for a moment and asked a little stunned, "What do you want to bet on?" It's very simple. Just bet on the impact of the movie on the sales of toys after it is released and link the sales volume with profits. If the movie hadn't had any impact on toy sales and sales had grown by less than 10% in a year, MGM would have paid Hasbro twice as much royalty, or $100 million. If Transformers toy sales grow by more than 50% in a year, MGM will pay Hasbro 1.5 times the royalties, or $75 million. If toy sales grow by more than 100% in a year, MGM will pay Hasbro $50 million in royalties. If toy sales grow by more than 150% in a year, MGM will only pay Hasbro $25 million in royalties. And if toy sales grow by more than 200% in a year, MGM will still only pay Hasbro $25 million in royalties, but Hasbro will pay MGM 10% of the toy profits. In the end, if toy sales grow by more than 300% in a year, MGM will still pay Hasbro $50 million in royalties, but Hasbro will have to give 3% of the equity to MGM, or pay 40% of the toy profits. Of course, this is just a rough idea of mine, and we can discuss the details, but hopefully Hasbro can see our sincerity. That's right, it was Eric's impromptu idea to come up with the VAM agreement. You are greedy for my money, and I am greedy for your body. In 2002, American Toys was in a 3-country hegemony situation. Hasbro, Mattel, and Lego occupied the mainstream of the market, and other small companies could only tremble, and they did not know when they would usher in bankruptcy or be acquired. Huaxia's friends are the most unfamiliar with Mattel, because their main product is the Barbie series, and Huaxia people playing Barbie dolls are really not mainstream. Among the 3 giants, if the development follows the historical trajectory, Lego is undoubtedly on the right path, relying on various superheroes and Disney licenses, developing a large number of film and television game peripherals, and becoming the world's #1 toy manufacturer in one fell swoop. But looking at 2002, Lego was at a disadvantage, with Hasbro and Mattel having a larger market share. Eric's idea is also very simple. It is better to enter the management of Hasbro without blood, and then slowly gain the right to speak. If he can become a decision-maker, with his prescient ability, it is not impossible to defeat Mattel and Lego in the future, and even within the scope of laws and rules, the acquisition may not be a dream. After invading Japan and taking Bandai Namco, then the global toy market can be said to be dominant, and an absolute monopoly position can be formed. What could be more profitable in the world than a monopoly? Of course, this is just a beautiful idea. In 2007, because Transformers was a hit, his little nephew pleased him to buy toys, so he bought a genuine movie Optimus Prime, and the price was expensive. He also paid attention to Hasbro's financial report that year, and the sales of Transformers toys soared by 5 times, which can be said to have doubled, and the profit far exceeded Paramount. So he really wants Hasbro to sign the gambling agreement, and is even willing to make a bigger concession, as long as you sign it. Mr. Hazenfield, I hope you will think about this VM agreement. I think it is more cost-effective than raising the royalties by 20%. In the conference room, the people on the Hasbro side had fallen into silence en masse. Not only them, but also the people on MGM's side were in a state of confusion. Volvo was even yelling in his heart, "Can you talk to me before you make a fucking decision? We are going to catch others off guard, not ourselves." After a moment of silence, Hazenfield looked at the time. "Mr. Cooper, although you are very young, I have to say that the proposal is very bold. But this is not for me to decide. It needs to be studied by the board of directors. I think I will stop here for today. After all, Hasbro has seen your sincerity. It's not too early. Why don't you take a break? After talking about work for so long, it's time to talk about other things like a friend." Eric also knew that the other party couldn't be the master, not to mention that the details still needed to be improved, so he also laughed. "Then it's disrespectful." At 2:30 in the afternoon, Eric and Xing boarded a flight back to Los Angeles. In the first-class cabin, a beautiful stewardess in uniform walked up to the two of them and served with a smile. "Do you need something to drink, sir? Bring me a glass of ice water, thank you." Eric stroked his dazed head, and at lunchtime, Hazenfield was very welcoming. Even though the age difference is more than a decade, the other party seems to be really interested in Eric, and the two talk a lot. "When the interest comes, I naturally drink a lot of wine. Don't think that there is no wine table culture abroad, so that now the wine strength is up and my mouth is a little dry. Just give me Coke." Stewardess quickly came back with the plate, saw Eric's dazed appearance and asked, "Sir, are you feeling unwell?" Saying that, he grabbed Eric's hand. "Do you need to call a doctor?" Shaking his head and feeling the itching on his hand, Eric carefully looked at the stewardess in front of him, who looked like Brooke Silk. You must know that unlike Huaxia, the flight attendants of American Airlines are almost all aunts, and it is only possible to meet young people in the first class, and the probability of meeting beautiful women is not high. "I think so, but not a doctor. Can you help me?" said Eric, walking to the bathroom. "It's a hassle to review. Let's read the comments." Whoosh. At Tel Aviv Airport, a plane crashes into the sky. It's a flight to Los Angeles. In a dozen hours, it will land at Los Angeles International Airport. What? You mean you knew I was going to Los Angeles? First class. In the adjacent seat, Gal Gadot clasped his hands to his chest and looked at Judy with a scrutinizing expression. "Of course, I see a temperament in you, and anyone who has this temperament becomes a big star. Charlize Theron, Cameron Diaz, Meryl Streep, and so on, they all have that kind of temperament." "What about me?" asked Gal Gadot's best friend, Bar Leffely. The two worked part-time models on a runway, and Judy spent some time in Tel Aviv and took advantage of the situation to get her done. To be precise, it was Judy who fell in love with Balafali and was attracted by the youthful aura and estrogen exuded by the other party. And Vaialavari has always had a dream of becoming an actor, and the two hit it off, and were fooled by Judy into getting on a thief ship. You also have Deer. You will all become big stars, of course, if you have resources. So when you arrive in Los Angeles, I will take you to meet Eric and remember to please him. Your boss, Eric, what kind of person is he? Young man, just like me, but smarter than me. At noon. The next day, a Boeing landed at Los Angeles International Airport, and the two women couldn't help but smack their lips when they looked at the people who picked up the plane not far away and the Lincoln sedan, which was worth a lot of money at a glance. Judy, Until now, I can finally believe that you really didn't lie to me, that you really are MGM executives. If you suspect me, why are you coming along? Gal Gadot shook his head and looked at his best friend. Of course it's a chance, La Folly. What about you? I also doubted it, but I didn't want to let go of this opportunity in Tel Aviv. I'm afraid I will never be a supermodel in my life, and I will never be able to stand on a higher stage in my life, let alone an actor. Judy pinched her nose. Don't worry, with Eric holding you, you will soon become big stars. The car drove all the way to the MGM building, passing Sunset Boulevard, and the eyes of the two couldn't help but show longing. Walking into the building, all the way to Eric's office, Xing stopped the three of them. Judy, there is someone inside. Let me see. Is this the person you brought back from thousands of miles away? Sure enough, it's very beautiful. The two girls smiled and shook hands with Xing. In the office, Warren was reporting to work, and next to him, there was a young man, none other than Ryan Reynolds. Eric, following your proposal, I approached the Wayans brothers. Kieran Wayans had already read the script for Sharknado and decisively refused. Wayans' exact words are this: although I like to make spoof movies, there is a difference between spoof and bad movies. And this Sharknado, you guys, please forgive me for speaking more straightly. Looking left and right, looking up and down is a pile of shit, a pile of stinky shit. Whoever likes to shoot it, I won't shoot it. According to Pema Haradi, if the director's fee is increased by $2 million, it should be possible to take him. But Sharknado is originally a low-budget movie, and it is impossible to overspend by $2 million, not to mention that the difference between this kind of big bad movie and the director's level is actually not big, so we think it's better to save some money. Eric nodded. Then the director you decide for yourself, in short, just shoot according to the script. After saying that, he looked at the little. You look so young, Mr. Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds was stunned for a moment. Shouldn't you say something polite like hello when you meet for the first time? What the hell are you so young? He took the initiative to stand up and stretch out his hand. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Cooper. I'm Ryan Reynolds. As Eric looked at the young Deadpool, the other party was watching him. Sure enough, it's the guy in the newspaper. He should be younger than me. He's pretty handsome. Damn it, I'm thinking something. Eric made a gesture of please. Sit down. You insist on seeing me. Is there anything wrong? Ryan Reynolds organized the language that he had been thinking about for a long time and still said with some nervousness, Mr. Cooper, I read the script of Sharknado, and I will tell you the truth. Seeing that the other party wanted to stop talking, Eric said for him, no logic, no bullshit. Ryan Reynolds nodded awkwardly. Yes, I'm very aware of that. That's what Sharknado is all about. It's the route we're going to take. Mr. Cooper, I don't understand. Mr. Reynolds, for example, if you want to be popular in the entertainment industry, do you say that it is more advantageous to be a handsome and mediocre person or an ugly person with very characteristics? Ryan Reynolds pondered for a moment. You mean special actors? It's almost understandable that Hollywood produces too many movies a year, very few like The Godfather and very few like Room. What kind of movie is that? A bad movie that will go down in history, not? Eric suddenly realizes that The Room has not yet been released. In other words, movies like The Outer Space Program are very rare. Ryan Reynolds nodded. The film directed by Ed Wood, although I can't appreciate it, it has indeed rotted into art. I think I understand you a little. That's it. Good actors don't be afraid to take on bad movies. You really have the ability. You can also kill from bad movies. Mr. Cooper, you have some truth in what you say, but I have one last question. Please. Is it true that Mr. Warren said that if I starred in Sharknado, other MGM films would consider me as well? This question is what Ryan Reynolds really cares about, although The King of Repetition can only be regarded as a mediocre work. but it is also an opportunity that he has waited for 10 years to wait, and the next time he wants to get such an opportunity, I don't know how long he will have to wait. Since MGM threw an olive branch, he wanted to catch it, but he was very worried about being shabu by the other party, and he couldn't help it. If there is a suitable role, I will consider you, and you will be at least the second male lead of a blockbuster movie in the future. How about it? Hearing this, Ryan Reynolds felt ecstasy in his heart. The second male lead of a blockbuster film is far more important than the low-cost light comedy actor with an investment of tens of millions in The King of Repetition, and the two are not at the same level. That being the case, Mr. Cooper, I don't think there's a reason why I shouldn't take it. So happy to work together. Happy cooperation. The two walked out of the office. Chen Xing said hello, and Judy came in with the two girls. Eric had already known about the situation over the phone, and he couldn't help but smile as he looked at the somewhat young Wonder Woman. As for Bar Lafferty, although she is also a beautiful model, there are too many such beautiful models in Hollywood, and you can find a lot of them if you take a random walk in Beverly Hills. Gal Gadot's beauty is characteristic. It belongs to the feminine with perseverance, attackable and sweet. And Bar Leffely just has no characteristics. Beauty is beautiful, it's a pity. And Eric felt that the girl's name was familiar, but he couldn't remember her experience. But since Judy has a crush on this chick, Eric doesn't mind helping. Anyway, there are a lot of characters in The Walking Dead, so let's arrange one for her first. After chatting for a while, Eric said, "Let's sign the contract first. The contract for 5 works. Do you agree?" Since the two girls are here, what else do they disagree with? You need to learn and exercise first, and then I will assign you each role, and it is up to you whether you can seize the opportunity or not. Gadot, you have to gain some weight and then build muscles, make your body more sexy and plump, so that you can meet the needs of Transformers. Well, can I also play the heroine of a movie? Asked Beryl Lavari hurriedly. Eric hesitated for a moment. Yes. Wait until there is a suitable script, and of course respect the opinions of the rest of the crew. You're the boss. It's not a matter of words. Who can resist your decision? Leffely asked with some reluctance. She also wanted to get a promise from Eric like Gadot. Feeling that the atmosphere was a little awkward, Judy hurriedly put her arms around Leffely's shoulders and said, "These things are not in a hurry. The movie is not about being filmed. The first time I came to Los Angeles, I will take you to buy something first, and Gadot will bring you along."
Gal Gadot smiled sweetly. Ok.